All right, it is a crowded field. A number of Democrats who've already announced they're going to make a stab at running for the White House. But before we had the dozen or so now, and maybe a dozen or 2 dozen more who are considering a presidential run of their own, there was this guy, the 2020 presidential candidate, Andrew Yang. He's an entrepreneur. He's had some success in the business world, which comes at a time when there's another guy in the White House who had some success in the business world and made it to the White House. Andrew Yang, very good to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why are you doing this?
Well, I spent the last 7 years helping create several thousand jobs in Detroit, Cleveland, St. Louis, New Orleans, and other regions of the country. And there I saw the aftermath of the devastation in manufacturing jobs. I believe that the reason why Donald Trump won in 2016 is that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the swing states he needed to win. And now my friends in Silicon Valley know we're about to do the same thing to millions of retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, and most disastrously, truck driving jobs. And so that's why I decided to run for president, to help us manage this transition that we're in the midst of.
All right, your wealth comes from selling your test prep company, Manhattan Jimmy, right? That's where a lot of it comes from. You're not a billionaire, but you're up there.
Well, it's very kind. Yes, definitely not a billionaire.
Multi-hundred millionaire?
But I've had some success. And certainly I've looked around and seen that this country needs people like me to step up.
Okay. You are advocating, and this is a popular theme among many who are competing for the Democratic nomination, this idea of universal income, but you extend it to pretty much everybody. If you're over 18, $1,000 a month, have at it. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you look at the history of this idea, it's deeply American, where Thomas Paine was for it at the founding of the country, Martin Luther King was for it, Milton Friedman, the leading conservative economist, championed in the 70s. In one state,
but it was never implemented.
It passed the House of Representatives twice under Richard Nixon, and it was implemented 11 years later in one state, where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year.
You're talking about Alaska?
Yes, the Alaska Petroleum Revenues. Yes, but that's a deeply Republican state. It was passed by a Republican governor who asked the Alaskan people, who would you rather get the oil money, the government or you? And what I'm saying right now...
But they're the ones funding that. Who would fund this? How would you pay for this?
Yes. So the way we fund it, and if you look around, you can see the headlines. Amazon paid no taxes last year despite record profits. Netflix paid no taxes last year despite record profits. What we have to do is we have to put the American people in position to start harvesting the gains from artificial intelligence, self-driving cars and trucks, advanced technology. And with that money, what I call the tech check, we can then fund this dividend for all Americans.
All right, but I'm sorry I'm slow here. I don't understand. I know you've got the attention of Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, people who like that idea. But how do you pay for it? I mean, that would be over $2 trillion a year.
So the price tag comes down very quickly because we're already spending hundreds of billions of dollars on 126 existing welfare programs, which would be largely consolidated. A lot of that would get replaced by this dividend because people would vastly prefer $1,000 in cash unconditional to the hodgepodge of benefits with administration and monitoring that they currently experience.
But there are guys like you, do you really need the $1,000 yourself?
Well, the great thing is we can make this universal. It's a right of citizenship, and that means it's not a stigmatized transfer from rich to poor. But the great thing, Neil, is that a lot of this, we can build a trickle-up economy from people and families and communities up, because most of this money would just go right back into the economy through Main Street businesses around the country.
Right now, there's an attitude of the party, many in your party, the predominant left wing of the party, which a lot of people say is the party right now, that questions wealth. And even guys like yourself who succeed on your own and do a great job. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who sort of seems to be the spokesman for that movement, has said that every billionaire is a policy mistake. What did you make of that?
Well, you know, I think you got to look at the big picture. The big picture is we're in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country. And billionaires are something of a natural byproduct of that giant wave. And so right now we have to try and build a system. But do you agree with what she's saying, a policy mistake? Those billionaires created a lot of jobs, created a lot of opportunities. You know, I think that there are ways that we can more effectively have the American people benefit from some of the huge winnings that people have experienced during this economy.
But and I think most people in politics, whatever, these guys have created gazillion-dollar enterprises that employ hundreds of thousands, millions across the country.
Yeah, and I'm in the camp, as you suggest, that our system creates very, very wealthy people who have been fortunate, yeah, but they've done a lot of value creation in many, many
What
cases.
would you
and that's
raise
something
their taxes?
Well, so to me, the focus on income taxes is not the right way to go. And I'm going to use Jeff Bezos as an example. So Jeff started Amazon. He has over $100 billion in Amazon stock. Hasn't sold any.
Right.
And so there's no taxable event.
So a wealth tax.
No, so I think a wealth tax, too, is not the right way to go. What we have to do is we have to join every other advanced economy in the world and have a value-added tax, because a value-added tax is much, much harder for big multinational companies to wriggle out of and game their way out of.
Most of the European nations have such a tax, and they're not exactly on fire.
Well, but you do see that they're able to harness more of the big winners in terms of the corporate companies that are generating lots of profits. They are able to get that tax revenue much more effectively.
But fewer than 10% of Italian citizens pay taxes, even in a high value-added tax nation. This is, I only know as an Italian American. But I'm wondering, do you worry that good intentions are going to mean you're going to stick Americans with a good-sized bill?
Well, in this case, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a dividend for all American adults, the freedom dividend, where every American citizen is the owner and shareholder of the richest and most advanced economy in the history of the world. We can easily afford a $1,000 dividend that's just going to go right back into the economy anyway. It's going to create 2 million jobs around the country and grow the consumer economy by 8 to 10%.
But you're talking about, this chance to deal with, truckers and manufacturing workers
Yes.
who could be out of jobs soon.
Yep.
Right now, we're at record low unemployment. Key groups are looking at the highest employment levels we have ever seen. So a lot of people step back and say, well, Andrew's just missing that big picture. If it's so horrific, it would show up in the numbers, and it's not.
Well, if you look at our labor force participation rate, despite a small bounce back, it's still around 63%, which is close to a multi-decade low and the same levels as El Salvador and the Dominican
But
Republic.
it's higher than when Barack Obama was president. So a lot of Republicans will counter that if you were to become the party's nominee and say, been there, done a lot better than that.
Well, you can take a look at the curve, and it goes, it peaks around 2000, and then it starts crashing shortly thereafter, despite a very small bounce
It's just a matter
back.
of time before all this happens.
Well, if you look at the statistics, almost 1 in 5 prime working age American men is out of the workforce right now, and this is year 10 of an expansion. These are the good times, and we all know that when the next downturn comes, then when the tide comes in, we're going to see just what the reality is for many businesses and families.
All right.